I just booked my train KTX from Seoul Station to Busan. Well, just before Busan, because I'm not going to Busan. I'm going to meet family down there. And he doesn't live in Busan, but about a station before. But anyways, for all intents and purposes, it's just Busan. I thought it'd be fun to compare what KTX is like compared to the intercity buses in Korea. So I'll start off with what booking KTX was like. First, I tried to do it on my phone. KTX website does not work on my iPhone, like barely at all. It worked. It would take so long to load, and then every time I go into a subpage, it would just crash out completely. Not sure what was going on. Worked perfectly fine on my dad's Android phone, so just Apple incompatibility, I guess. So after that failed, I went onto my laptop. So I'm carrying a Windows laptop right now, and I had to use Microsoft Edge for a Korail website to work at all. Now, if you go into the domestic Korail website, you need to have a Korean phone number for this to all work. I don't have a Korean phone number. I'm using an eSIM, so I just have data, that's it. I was gonna contact one of my relatives to book it for me, because of course they live here, so they have Korean phone number at least. But then after a bit of sleuthing around, if you Google Korail Global, you can actually get to an English website, which is probably useful for a lot of you who are not Korean speaking. I can read Korean, I can't really write Korean. That's where my level of proficiency is at. And it was easier for me to navigate the English website as well. But this one only requires that you provide them an email. So that worked out pretty good for me. The KTX ticket cost me about 50,000 won. It's not cheap, but given I'm going to literally the other side of the country, I would call that pretty reasonable. And I don't have to go to the airport and do all the check-in bullshit and all that stuff. Yeah, so come along with me and we'll see how this journey goes, eh? This place is busy. Like, it's the terminal for KTX. When you come here, you gotta ask them to print you out a ticket from the information center. It's so busy. But the lady there does speak good English. And then you just gotta wait for your train to get here, and your boarding number, your train's board place will be called about 10 minutes before you board. There's tons of buses that come right to here. There's no problem getting here if you're in Seoul. And there's several other KTX departure stations around the city as well. I was gonna grab something to eat, but that's not happening. Everywhere is packed. Also, I've got cash, not card. Alright, I've been on the KTX for a couple of hours now. And honestly, the seats here are great. They're comfortable, they're spacious. They're like when airplane seats were actually decent to sit on. I don't know if any of them recline, because I haven't tried. But I haven't seen anybody else recline them either. But even without that, they're actually rather comfortable. They all have trays, and there's even a table if you sit in the middle where you're facing two people in front of you, you know, like the table seat. There's tons of air conditioning, especially if you sit by the windows. There is just, I'm actually freezing myself on my right arm, because that's where my right arm is, over the windows. In terms of luggage, there's actually tons of luggage space. There's big luggage space between the cars for anybody carrying large bags like myself. I'm carrying an 80-liter bag, so it's huge. There is some large luggage storage just inside, and also a vending machine. But there's also tons of luggage along the top of the seats as well, just overhead luggage space, completely open. I suppose you could always put them under your seat as well. So far it's been a very smooth ride, no bumps, and it's incredibly quiet, both the train and the people on board. And it's pretty much almost silent except for the occasional crinking of the chip packets and stuff like that. There's also Wi-Fi on board for free. And there are charging ports as well, but not every seat has them. You might have to supply your own mains power to USB voltage then. I think the best thing is just seeing the scenery go by. The scenery is actually absolutely beautiful. Quite fascinating if you're interested in things like that. I sure am. Though I guess there is the occasional tunnels, that's not much of anything. And you do have to be kind of on your toes and make sure that you're not missing any stops that you need to get off at as well. Just got off the KTX. That was fun. Kind of short. I was getting a bit restless though. And now I gotta find my way out of here. On the way back, I'll be taking the bus. Alright, so I just got off the bus, the intercity bus, though in Korean they're actually technically called high-speed bus, though they don't go any faster than any other vehicle that's on the road, because that will be illegal. I wanted the premium seat because that costs the same as KTX. However, I kinda winged it, and there was no premium seat, so the best I could do was the semi-premium. I don't know what wooden is in English. It's like semi-premium, better than normal. When I got on the bus, I didn't know how to like check in, so I kind of fumbled about, and the driver got pretty pissy with me. He was rather impolite, and I can't imagine he will be much more polite to anybody who doesn't speak Korean and was also speaking, or at least trying to be as polite as possible in Korean to him. The seats on the bus are a hell of a lot more comfortable. It reclines, it has a leg rest that comes up, it even has a footrest in the front seat in front of you so that you can put your feet up. You get a ton of space for yourself compared to the KTX. If you recline all the way back and you kick your feet out, you're pretty much lying down. And in terms of storage, there's a lot more large luggage storage on the bus than there is on the KTX. On the KTX there was these little small cubby holes in between the cars. On the bus there's the huge storage under the bus, as well as small item storage overhead as well you could use within the cabin. I'm not sure if you're expecting it, but there is no Wi-Fi on the bus, unlike on the KTX. And there is a USB charging port provided for you on the right hand side as you sit. However, the one on my seat didn't work, unfortunately. It was only a 4.5 hour journey, so I just used my power bank, but it was a bit unfortunate that it didn't work. Now, Korea is getting right hot at this point. It's not quite summer yet, but it's still getting to like 28 plus degrees. I think on this day it's like 29 odd degrees temperature plus 80% humidity, which meant outside it was bloody hot. However, inside it was even worse. Now, I've experienced taking the high-speed bus or intercity bus about 6 years ago, and I remember the whole experience being downright freezing. So I don't know what was up with this, but there was no air conditioning at all. Me and another passenger asked the driver if there is air conditioning, and he said, yeah, it's on. Put your hand next to it. There's my dog coughs more air than that. It was hot, and I sweat the whole way I was making my way up to Seoul. In terms of how much longer it takes, as I said, it takes about an hour extra on top of the KTX, hour and 20 minutes odd. Depending on how much of a rush you're in, that doesn't make much of a difference. There's something that's more important to me is that unlike the KTX, the views on the bus is nowhere as interesting, as you're either looking at trees or you're looking at highway barriers for sound and, noise dampening. There just isn't a lot of variety and views, though your mileage may vary if you're taking a different inner city bus compared to the one from Busan to Seoul. I just didn't think it was all that worth it in terms of views. Of course, unlike the KTX, there are no toilets on board, but you do have a highway rest stop, which is my favorite place in all of Korea to get food. Though mind you, you only had 15 minutes, which turned out to be 10 because my driver was arse, but this is still a highlight of the trip for me. And this is the reason I wanted to go on the bus compared to just taking the KTX back up. And of course, the reason for that is because I got myself a nice sweet rice drink and mozzarella hot dog. Though in hindsight, I should have just got the fish sticks. Yeah, it would have been better. And lastly, just something to keep in mind is that because this is a bus that just goes on the public road, that is very much affected by traffic. And traffic in Seoul is Seoul and its surrounding city and the satellite cities in the area is terrible. So if there is congestion, that hour or hour and a half extension on top of the KTX time is gonna be much longer. So just keep that in mind. Though, just like the KTX station in Seoul, the Seoul bus terminal is just as well connected. You have access to several bus stops right outside, as well as access to one of the major train lines that goes right across Seoul, so you can get on that and go to whatever place you need to find yourself in. So, which one do I think is more worth it? Well, it's kind of a hard tell because bus is slightly cheaper, only by about $10 by the way. Though if you have a lot of luggage, it might actually be more comfortable, as I found it. There was a bit of anxiety about whether I'll have enough space for luggage on the KTX myself. However, KTX is faster. It's not exactly uncomfortable. It's like bigger than airplane economy seats, and it's only a 3-hour thing. However, the premium bus especially, not talking about the one I took by the way, has great air conditioning. You have curtains all around you, so you pretty much have essentially a room, and those reclining chairs on the premium bus are absolutely amazing. However, they cost the same as a KTX and take an hour and a half longer. So whether or not that's worth it depends on how much of a rush you're in. I'm never in any rush when I'm traveling because that just makes travel suck. So to me, the bus is the right one. However, if you're the kind of person that wants to just jump on the KTX and go down to whatever as fast as possible and go to your accommodation, put all your stuff away, and walk around, and the experience of actually moving while in travel is not something you really give a shit about, then take the KTX. I would give KTX maybe a 10 out of 10 in terms of speed, and maybe a 7 out of 10 for comfort. When I say an economy flight is like a 5. In terms of ease, I would actually only give it about a 6, because I found the Korean KTX booking experience to be rather confusing. And in terms of value, honestly, maybe an 8. It's kind of hard to beat. And for the bus, I would give it a speed rating of maybe a 7, comfort of 9, maybe 8. It's real good. In terms of ease, maybe an 8 as well. You can actually go up to the counter and book these things if you want to. And the website isn't as clunky, in my opinion. And in terms of value, it's 10 out of 10. Well, you're paying for 4.5 hours of someone to drive you. You're paying that man like $8 an hour. Are you kidding me? That's good value right there. Now, there's one last option you might not have considered, which is taking a plane from Kimhe, Kimpo, Kimpo, the domestic airport in Seoul, down to Busan or anywhere else in the country for that matter. I will never opt for that option because I hate plane travel. I hate checking in. I hate checking my luggage. I hate. But if you're taking a single bag, say you're one bagging, you're taking carry-on only, you're in and out, and you have your own transport, and that's a pretty good deal. However, the domestic airport in Seoul is really out of the way from central Seoul, and there isn't too much things going on in there in terms of public transport to get you out of there. So to me, I'd rather sit in the KTX for 3 hours than have to go to the airport an hour and a half early, wait around, sit in the uncomfortable ass economy seat in this tiny ass plane, fly down, take 45 minutes to get my bag out of the bloody conveyor belt thing again. I would rather take the KTX. And I would rather take the premium bus route rather than take the KTX because it's just more comfortable, and to me, going to the highway stops is just such a nostalgic experience for me. So there you have it. I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, please leave me a like. Leave me what your experience has been like traveling around Korea, or if you're looking forward to do any of these 3 types of travel. I hope you have a good day, and I hope you take care of yourself. Peace.